Throw hand!
Thank you, A-Team, and welcome once again to Rohan's Corner, everyone, on this Saturday night. I hope you're having a good week, and this week I wanted to talk about something which follows on from a video I did a few months ago, which was about how I got into Transformers. And there's a lot of chatter in the groups about how it's now been 35 years since Transformers was first launched in Generation 1, and many collectors have started collecting, stopped collecting, or maybe they don't classify the original formative years as collecting because they were kids and they were enjoying the toys and just enjoying themselves. And now it's become a serious collecting habit, and there's a bridge or a gap between the two. And so I started to think back through my past and think about when I had been a fan as a toy, collected the toys as a kid to enjoy, to play with, had a gap, and then come back to the fandom to collect again based on getting reintroduced to the Transformers brand. So today's video is all about what brought you back to Transformers after any kind of delay or any kind of gap in your collecting habits. I started collecting in 1986, 1987. I enjoyed the back end of G1 and tried to sort of scurry to get as many Transformers from Generation 1 as I could, being a lot younger than most of the collectors out there. And I managed to pick up some well into the 90s, but obviously at the back end of the 80s, early 90s, we were moving between that G1, G2 period, and a lot of the mainline toys had started to disappear or were only coming out in part of the classics range or the yellow box range as many people knew them. And so those were available, but then towards the sort of mid-90s we started to see this transition into G2 and the cartoon and all the other bits and pieces that went with it. And I was really interested in trying to get as much of that as I could. And I remember going to the States in 1990 and then again in 1996. And I believe we picked up quite a lot of stuff in the early 90s from liquidators and small toy shops, which had old stock left over from Generation 1, which was great. And then some of the sort of G2 or Machine Wars or mid G1, G2 bits and pieces, which I loved. However, then in obviously 1996, this is when I sort of took my stop from Transformers. When Beast Wars came out, I really didn't like the concept. I really didn't like the show. I really didn't like anything about it. And we had that horrible period of Beast Wars, Beast Machines, and Animorphs, which Andy showcased last week on the show. Sorry about that, Andy. Which was terrible, really, for me at the time. I really didn't like it at all. The toys were hideous for me. Even though I did pick up a couple of Beast Wars toys and we did watch bits of the show at the time, we didn't really enjoy it, my brother and I. So we had a break, sort of. We were still trying to collect G1 bits and pieces where we could, but it was much more difficult. You would go to car boot sales and pick up bits and pieces, and maybe you'd be lucky and find something in the charity shop or some shop which had got very old stock, that sort of thing. Sometimes abroad as well. And I guess between sort of the late 90s, 1996, 1997 to 2000, or 1999 really, was a bit of a big gap for me. And then all of a sudden in 1999, 2000, RID, the original Car Robot series hit from Japan, translated into English for the American and UK markets and Western Europe. And it pulled me right back in again, because obviously they tried to mix the two elements of the G1 cars and vehicles for the Autobots, and then the Predacons for the Decepticons with the Beast modes, and then also bringing in the Ruination and Scourge figures, which were obviously repaints of G1 toys, which worked kind of well to try and put the franchise back on track with its original idea and really pulled me back in. And I remember in 1999, 2000, maybe even 2001, it might be 99 and 2001, we went to the States and I picked up virtually the entire RID line in a whole suitcase full and brought it back to the UK. And the cartoon series was fantastic. I remember really enjoying the Decepticon commando units, Skybite, who I've talked about loads of times, being hilarious character, along with his Predacon Team Rocket style baddies. And then we had the Autobots, the Car Brothers, and Wedge and his construction team, which was quite cool. Rail Racer was nice to see some train bots in there, and Ultra Magnus making a comeback, which was really good in the way in which he did. Firstly, as kind of a negative character or a bad kind of character, and then coming back and helping Optimus and combining together. And yeah, I really enjoyed that series. And there's a lot of people talking about whether or not we're going to get some updated figures of those toys coming forward as part of the upcoming lines that follow on from War for Cybertron. Hey, I really hope so, because I've sold all my RID bots now because they're old, and I enjoyed them at the time, but it would be nice to have some updated versions of those to get more tune accuracy, to get more sort of scale accuracy. That would be really cool. And obviously they brought back Fortress Maximus in that series as well. So, and if we can say that at that time ROD was kind of the transition period for the Transformers franchise, and now we're in that sort of same space again with War for Cybertron, very similar to Generation 1 in the sense that it's the same kind of characters, the same kind of look and feel of the figures, so on and so forth. Now we're looking for something that next stage, and we've got the Beast Wars toys out there. There's Beast Wars film being bandied about. There's also an animated film being bandied about. Don't know if those two are the same thing. Maybe we could have this crossover again of robots and vehicles and beasts in another kind of car robot style series, just for a season or two. It would be quite cool. And yeah, as long as they don't have Ty and Koji in it, then it'll be all good. What do you all think? And what would you like to see next? And also, what brought you back into Transformers after a period of not collecting? And when was that? We'd like to hear from you. Let us know and write into the show. For another week, I've been Rohan, and this has been Rohan's Corner. Okay, see you next week. Back to the studio.
Hey boys, we've been rumbled. Well, let's bounce.